2 cent, my mom running shit. You fucking Compton Ave coward. The forecast call for gray skies and gun showers.
Hello, hello. Welcome back to another video. I'm sick as hell right now. Y'all might be able to hear it. Hopefully not, but the grind does not stop. So much shit has been going on with free agency, and rather than trying to make a goddamn hour-long video trying to recap every move, I'm gonna try and do it by position. So let's get right into it. This one's going to be discussing quarterbacks. So let's get into it. First up, as y'all can see, we got Marcus Mariota heading from the Falcons to the Eagles. Is a 1-year, $5 million deal. And I think Mariota and a lot of these are going to be tied back into my 53 quarterback tier list that I made. But I feel like Mariota gets a little unfairly hated on for his performance last season in ATL. You know, after Kyle Pitts went down, Cordero Patterson went down, that offense and that team really was just deprived of talent, So I think when you look at it, he actually did a little better than I think most people expected. And for him to be a backup on a Super Bowl caliber team, I mean, hey, if Jalen Hurts goes down next season, I couldn't think of many backups in the league that could fill those shoes better than Mariota. So that's a very good pick in my opinion. I'm gonna give each of these a grade, and I'm gonna give that one an A minus. Like I said, very good backup to have considering how well he performed last year in ATL. And next to no, I mean, 5 million. We're gonna get to some of these other guys getting paid, and you're gonna see 5 million for a guy of Mariota's caliber. That's a steal in my opinion. So yeah, very good move. I like that one. Next up, we got Mike White from the Jets to the Dolphins. 2 years, around 16 million. And there's the stats for you right there. Obviously, he only played about 4 games. And, it was rough for sure. I think it's obvious to tell there. My problem here is that for a Dolphins team that, I mean, you're trying to make a Super Bowl push, I like the idea of getting a quarterback who you would trust in case Tua did go down. Because, I mean, unfortunately, that seems like a more than likely scenario at this point that Tua is going to end up missing significant time. However, my problem with this is that I'm not really sure if Mike White is that guy. I just I don't really like it in my opinion. It's just I gave it a B minus because I like what they're trying to do, but I feel like it's a little too much money, and we're gonna see some of the other options up here. I don't think Mike White was the right guy for that role. Next up, we got Jacoby Brissett heading to the Commanders, 1 year, $10 million. And look, Jacoby was good last season. I'm not gonna sit here and try and hate and say that he wasn't, anything like that. He had a good season last year. My problem is that I feel like it's kind of too good of a quarterback to bring in. Like my opinion on the Commanders is Sam Howell is either that guy and he surprised everybody, maybe they sneak into the playoffs, or he's not the guy, they suck, and they're in the position to draft like Caleb Williams or Drake May next season. The problem with this move, in my opinion, is that if Sam Howell does suck, Jacoby comes in, he possibly wins you an extra game or two when you're not in position to draft the replacement, the long-term franchise guy. So that's why I gave it a B. Again, you know, Jacoby is one of the better backup quarterbacks to have in the league. I mean, hey, if Sam Howell's not the guy, Jacoby's probably going to be the starter next season. So to get that guy for 10 mil, it's not a bad move, but I don't know, it gives me a weird feeling, something about that move. Next up, we got Darnold to the Niners, 1 year, 4 million. And if you look at the stats, I mean, obviously he only played about 6 games, but he actually had a career season last year in Carolina. Also had about 2 rushing touchdowns, I think. And hey, look, the Niners, they're just such a stacked roster where I honestly believe if Darnold was just the starter next season, all 17 games, I think they're still a playoff team. So to have a guy like that, who's coming off a career year, to be honest, for $4 million, just as an emergency spot, in case everything goes wrong, which it usually does for the 49ers in terms of injuries. If Darnold had to step in the game, I'd be fairly confident as a Niners fan. So I actually gave this move an A. Next to no money, only $4 million, and you get probably the best emergency backup quarterback in the NFL. I love that move, even though I'm a Seahawks fan. Next, Taylor Heineke to the Falcons, 2 years, around up to $20 million, I believe. I don't like it. I'm gonna keep it real. And this is kind of similar to what I felt with Jacoby to the Commanders, except this one is just it's so much. Okay, so the Falcons are just a horrible team, right? One of the worst rosters in the NFL. And you're gonna put all of this money, I mean, at least 10, $12 million guaranteed over 2 years to Taylor Heineke, when you could have used that money to actually improve the roster elsewhere. Because my problem is, if things go right, Heineke shouldn't play a game. If Desmond Ridder is that guy, similar to the Commanders of Sam Howell is that guy, he's either the guy and he surprises everybody and you're happy with what he does next season, or he's not the guy and you draft his replacement the following year. Heineke throws a wrench in that if he were to come in and play and win you a game or two when he wasn't supposed to. And also to be paying him more than I think he's worth, it's just I don't like this. I just don't like it at all. D plus, overpay, not the right guy. I don't like the move. Next up, I don't know if you can see it there. We got Matt Ryan heading from the Colts to the wheelchair league, what I like to call the retirement home. Even though some other team will probably pick him up, I doubt he plays. But I mean, we'll probably see him in the backup role, mentoring some young guy. And I mean, look, it's something about Matty Ice. The love was lost for me a long time ago. And I mean, just look at that drop from last year to this season in Indianapolis. Would have led the league in interceptions, no doubt in my mind, had he stayed healthy the whole year. It's just, man. And you could say the whole Colts team was a disappointment, and I would agree with that. However, Matt was a big proponent of that, and I don't want to say I'm happy to see him out the league, but I think he deserves to not be a starter anymore after last year's performance. And because of that, I gave this, if it'll let me fucking advance, I gave it an A because, yeah, get rid of Matt Ryan, save you a bunch of cap space, is what the Colts did. So I can't hate on that. Great move. Next up, we got the Saints re-signing Jameis to a 1-year, $8 million deal. And this hurts for me. As a Jameis fan, this hurts because I want to see Jameis go somewhere where he can succeed. And I just don't feel like the Saints want him to succeed. I mean, and look at this, right? Obviously, we know last season, the Saints started, what was it, like 5-2. Jameis was rolling and he tore his ACL, I believe. So those are the stats under Sean Payton. And then look what happened in 3 games this year under Pete Carmichael, whatever his fucking name is. Horrible. Horrible. And that's just difference in my opinion of who's calling the plays. Because when Jameis had a good guy under the helm and Sean Payton, he was great production. Amazing. 5-2 record as well. Then when you got a Pete Carmichael coming in, complete drop off. So I don't blame Jameis for that. But if we're just looking at the Saints' perspective, you let Andy Dalton walk, you keep the younger guy, you keep him for less money. I like it. It's a good move from the Saints. It's a B plus because I just don't like the idea of paying a backup quarterback $8 million, especially when you're paying a guy like Taysom Hill, what is it, like $15 million? That's such a horrible contract. But still, one of the best backups in the league. If something were to happen to Derek Carr, Jameis comes in, you're in more than a good enough position to still win the NFC South. So good move by the Saints. Next up, speaking of Andy Dalton, he is going to the Panthers for 2 years, $10 million. And this is strictly just to mentor the number 1 overall pick, obviously, and maybe start the first 2 or 3 games if that guy isn't ready. Obviously, come in whenever that guy gets beat up. But, surprise. I mean, I mentioned this in my 53-man tier list. Andy Dalton was surprisingly good last year, so I'm surprised that he didn't get more. Another team didn't give him a shot for more than $5 million a year. But I mean, hey, it's this is probably his last stop. I doubt after 2 years we see him go to another team. This is probably going to be the end for Andy. But hey, from the Panthers side, I give it a B. Maybe even this might even have been a little harsh. I probably would have given this a B plus actually. But yeah, I think Andy is a good mentor, not a great mentor, but I think he will be able to help whoever that number one overall pick is. And moving forward, if he has to come and play a game, I mean, I doubt they're going to win anything, but I mean, I'd rather have Andy Dalton than, a Taylor Heineke or something like that. So, I mean, good move by the Panthers. Next up, staying in the NFC South, we got the Buccaneers picking up Baker, 1 year, $8 million from the Rams. And this is a tough one because if you look at Panthers Baker from last year, you'd say, God damn, get him out the league, XFL. But Rams Baker with less talent than he had on the Panthers, to be honest. He put together some performances, won 2 games, I think, against the Broncos and the Raiders. So, I mean, I just feel like this is the Bucks kind of Hail Mary just to try and stay competitive in the NFC South. And I mean, they're giving themselves a shot, I guess, with Baker. He is an X factor. Depending on how he plays, this Buccaneers could win the NFC South next year. Who knows? Or it could be a complete train wreck disaster. There is no in between, in my opinion. This team is not winning 6 or 7 games. They're either winning 4 games or 9 games, in my opinion. So that's what it comes down to. I gave it a C plus because me personally, I'd like to see him just blow it up. They got a lot of veterans on that team, but no quarterback, bad coaching. I just don't think they're built to win. But it's like they're still trying to hold on to that. I just don't like that direction whenever a team goes that route. So I gave it a C plus. Next up, Jimmy G to Oakland. Sorry, Las Vegas. That's the old school logo. So I was thinking Oakland, but no, it's Las Vegas now. 3 years, around 72 million. And Jimmy is sneakily coming off a career year last year, even though he, of course, went down again with injury. For that time he was in there, he was leading a very good Niners team to a couple wins. So, and this is okay. Let's just get straight to the grade. This is an A minus. If I should have put an asterisk there, if they draft Anthony Richardson with the 7th overall pick, this is an A minus because you have the perfect bridge quarterback. I think for the next 2 years, Jimmy G gives you a shot to make the playoffs. He's taken the 49ers to the playoffs multiple times. So he still gives you that shot of winning games in the regular season at least. And, he gives Anthony Richardson as much time as he needs, really. Whether it's 2 years, 3 years, he can be a solid starter. But if they don't draft Anthony Richardson, this is a D plus because this is not just a lateral move from Derek Carr. I think it's a worse move. I think you downgraded from Derek Carr to Jimmy G. And I know Jimmy G and Josh McDaniels have the connection from New England, but I mean, man, to go from Derek Carr to Jimmy G, and I understand it's less money, but that doesn't do anything for you. It puts you in just the same position, if not worse. And if you don't draft a quarterback, specifically Anthony Richardson, it puts your franchise in a very bad spot. So this is an A minus contingent on them drafting Anthony Richardson at 7th. Next up, we got the Giants re-signing Daniel Jones. I mean, 4 years, 160 million, and look at that increase in his personal statistics from 2021 to 2022 last season. It's massive. I mean, what is it? What's that? 400 rushing yards, 800 passing yards, 1,200 total yard increase. What is that? 5 rushing touchdowns. I mean, 10 total. I mean, that's just a massive, massive jump. I like the fact that they re-signed Daniel Jones. I think that was the right move because, I mean, if you let him walk, what the hell do you do now? So I like the move. He's a young guy coming off his rookie deal. He's shown improvement. 1 year playoff game in which he was amazing, and he still does not have the talent around him. I mean, who's the best receiver he's had in his entire career with the Giants? I don't even know. Is it Darius Slayton? That's horrible. So he's shown the signs of improvement. Already won a playoff game. So I gave it a B plus only because I mean 40 million for Daniel Jones. You can't get over that number. That's still too much. I don't care how good he was last year. If a guy plays 3 or 4 bad years and has one season where he shows flashes, that's not worth $40 million. But the hope here is that he plays into that contract and 3 or 4 years down the line, we're looking like, oh, they only got Daniel Jones for $40 million. But I don't know if that's going to happen, but it's still a good move by the Giants to keep their guy around. Next up, Derek Carr leaving Vegas to move to the Saints, 4 years, $150 million. A lot of people are critical of this move. I don't really see why. Because in my mind, what this does is it guarantees the Saints at least 2 to 3, maybe even 4 home playoff games in the next 4 years if Derek Carr plays out this contract. In the NFC South right now, we have Baker Mayfield, Desmond Ridder, and Taylor Heinicke, and the #1 overall pick. Those three and Derek Carr, this is the difference between those guys. Not to mention the fact that the Saints still have probably the second best roster overall, besides the Buccaneers in this division. So when you have a good roster and the best quarterback by a mile, it's hard for me to see a scenario where the Saints don't win this division at least 3 out of the 4 years that Derek Carr is playing there. And if that's the case, if Derek Carr can lead the Saints to 3 or 4 playoff appearances, and I mean, if you got like 3 home playoff games, chances are you're going to win one. So let's say Derek Carr takes them to 3 playoff appearances, wins a playoff game. I don't know how you could say this was a bad move by the Saints, because I think that's more than realistic. I mean, it's not a lot of money. I mean, you got Derek Carr for less than Daniel Jones, and he's miles better than Daniel Jones. Obviously, last season wasn't his best year, but I mean, Josh McDaniels is a horrible coach. Horrible, pathetic. So, I mean, Derek Carr, you're still going to have weapons in New Orleans. I like this move. A lot of people were shitting on this move. I gave it a B plus with potential to even move up. You know, if he wins a playoff game, if they win multiple division titles, this could be an A minus or an A even. So even though a lot of people are shitting on this move, I think it's one of the best of the offseason, to be honest. Next up, my Seattle Seahawks re-signing Geno. I couldn't be happier. I mean, I've talked about it multiple times already on this channel. I love Geno. Shocked the world last season, and to only get him for 35 million. I mean, come on. 35 mil for, in my opinion, the sixth best quarterback in the NFL last season, who should only get better as he continues to learn the system and build chemistry with his players, as the team looks to improve overall just with their roster. This is an amazing move. I mean, it's an A. If you bring back a top 6 quarterback for $35 million a season, and he shows all the reasons to be continuing that level of play, it's an amazing move. No arguments to be made. Only reason I didn't give it an A plus, I thought we could have got him for about 30. If we would have got him, 3 years, 90, 95 million, that would have been an A plus. But I mean, I can't hate. This is an A regardless. Next up, even though this is not finalized, everybody knows Aaron Rodgers is suiting up for the New York Jets next season, so I might as well talk about it now. Contract, question mark, who knows what the money will be agreed upon, if they're going to restructure it or not. We don't know that yet. But Aaron Rodgers is going to be a New York Jet next season. And let's take a look at these stats, right? Because if you look at it from first MVP 2 years ago, well, not his first MVP, but first MVP 2 years ago, MVP last season, and then this most recent season, it's a precipitous drop. I'll put it that way. Every season, worse and worse. And obviously just a complete collapse. One of the worst seasons, maybe the worst season of his career last season. And for a 40-year-old coming off that's iffy, However, for the Jets team, I think they won 9 games last season. They don't even need Aaron Rodgers to be MVP Aaron Rodgers. If they just get the same Aaron Rodgers from last year with better weapons around him, obviously, Garrett Wilson, Breece Hall, Allen Lazard still, improved O-line, possibly going from Green Bay to the Jets. I think this is a match made in heaven. I gave it an A minus because what's the worst thing that can happen? Besides injuries, leaving injuries out of this, Aaron Rodgers with the Jets roster, I don't see a world where they don't win 9 to 10 games at the minimum. Is that a lock for the playoffs in the AFC? Not at all. However, I think they have a playoff caliber roster. Adding Aaron Rodgers, even though I have said on this channel that Aaron Rodgers is washed. I've said that he is a shell of his former self, but I mean, all he has to do is, stay above water. He doesn't even have to go full speed, give 100%, and I think they're a playoff team. And I think that's all they're looking for. I mean, it's the Jets. I mean, come on now. They don't have Super Bowl aspirations. But, I mean, this is an upgrade, obviously. You can't deny that. So I had to give it an A minus. And, yeah. But yeah, that's gonna be it for this video. I'm dying right here. If you can't notice, if you don't notice, I'm about to keel over. But thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please like, share, and subscribe. And I'll see you on the next one. Peace.
It's out the motherfucking pack. Right out the niggas don't know how to act.